Dear students, today we shall start the first chapter of class 9 physics. This chapter is motion. Actually, it is given in chapter 8 of your NCERT class 9 science book. Dear friends, we see a lot of objects in our everyday life. Some objects are at rest and some objects are in motion. For example, very early in the morning we see flying birds, moving vehicles, running students, walking persons. On the other hand, we also see trees, buildings, etc. So, with the knowledge of these all things, we can define the term rest and motion. For information of motion, first of all, we should know what is the meaning of rest. So, we can define the term rest as if any object does not change its position with respect to its surroundings in time, then it is said to be at rest. For example, trees, buildings, walls of your houses, etc. But how can we define motion? The term motion may be defined as if any object changes its position with respect to its surroundings in time, then it is said to be in motion. For example, flying birds, moving vehicles, running students, etc. Dear students, this is the era of science and technology, and in science we must develop our understanding ability. We have not only remember the definitions or materials given in our textbook, we must understand the practical events related to that particular topic. With the help of this, we can learn science really, and questions are also based on practical applications. So always try to correlate science from your day-to-day life, and always try to give examples with your own ability Examples should not be remembered given in your textbook. So, as I understand that, with the concept of these things, you can say, you can write so many different examples of rest and motion. Now, we shall explain that the term rest and motion are completely comparative. What do we mean by saying this thing? You consider that you are traveling in any train, and at that time you compare yourself with any electric pole or person standing at railway station, then you are in motion. But if you compare yourself with passengers inside that bogie, then you feel yourself at rest. So we can say that rest and motion are completely comparative study. Now, very importantly, you will see that there are so many different activities given in your NCERT text, and I will always try to explain each and every activities, because activities give you perfect idea about materials related to our science books. Activity 1 states that is 8.1 of your chapter motion, states that discuss whether the walls of your classroom are at rest or in motion. Similarly, in activity 8.2, it is given that have you ever experienced that the train in which you are sitting appears to move while it is at rest? So, each and every activities correlate our knowledge with our day-to-day life events, and it gives us the perfect knowledge related to any particular topic. Next topic is describing motion. Describing motion. So, to describe motion, we require a very important thing which is called a reference point. What is the meaning of a reference point? See, reference point. It is very important. As in your measuring scale, there is a point 0. If you start to measure any length from 0 inch, then 0 is your reference point. But suppose the 0 inch of your measuring scale is broken, and you start the measurement from 1 or 2 or 1.5, any digit, then that point is a reference point. Another example is that suppose your home is 2 kilometers north from D.A.V. RUNNISAIDPUR Public School, then D.A.V. Public School RUNNISAIDPUR is your reference point. D.A.V. Public School RUNNISAIDPUR is your reference point. But another student measures the distance of his home from RUNNISAIDPUR bus stand, and he or she says that his home is 3 kilometers south from RUNNISAIDPUR bus stand. Then in this example, RUNNISAIDPUR bus stand is a reference point. So, in our day-to-day practice, there may be a lot of reference point. Thus, how we can define a reference point? We can define reference point as any fixed point from where we start our observation or measurement is called the reference point. In this chapter, we shall read different types of motions, but the most important motion is motion along a straight line. Motion along a straight line. Motion along a straight line. Here I am giving you one example. See here. Any object any person starts to travel from point O, reaches at point A through points C and B. If this complete journey is calibrated in kilometer and the scale is as given below: 5 kilometer, 10 kilometer, 15 kilometer, 20 kilometer, 25 kilometer, 30 kilometer, 35 kilometer and 40 kilometer. So suppose that person starts to travel from O and reaches to A. In this case, distance is equal to OA. This is equal to 40 kilometer, and displacement is also OA, and this is equal to 40 kilometer. But now the person returns back from A to B and B to C. So in second case, what will be the distance? Distance is equal to OA, this plus AC, and this is equal to 40 kilometer, this plus distance is equal to OA plus AC, that is 40 kilometer, and this plus 20 kilometer. This is equal to 60 kilometer. But in this case, the displacement is equal to OC. This is equal to only 20 kilometer. Thus, first time in class 9, we introduce a new term, and this term is displacement. 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 So with the concept of this example, now we can define distance and displacement. So dear students, see, what is distance? Distance, the total path traveled by any object is called distance. But how can we define displacement? Displacement, the minimum distance between the final and initial points during any movement is called the displacement. Now, what we see? We see that distance and displacement are completely different things. To give more description about distance and displacement, we shall consider two things. First is a scalar quantity, and another is vector quantity. In your class 9, a scalar and vectors are not given. It will start in class 11. But we should know in advance because it is very useful and we shall use it in many different chapters to explain topics easily. So, we should know really what is the meaning of a scalar quantity and what is the meaning of vector quantity. One by one see. What is the meaning of a scalar quantity? The physical quantity having only magnitude are called a scalar quantity. So you can write the definition. A scalar quantity. A scalar quantity. A scalar quantity. Physical quantities. Physical quantities having only magnitude but not direction are called scalar quantities. For example, distance, time, length, temperature, mass, etc.
Let's start.
Vector quantities. Physical quantities having both magnitude and direction are called vector quantities. For example, displacement, velocity, acceleration, force, momentum, etc. We shall read different vector quantities in different topics. Now, with the help of this concept, we can say that distance is a scalar quantity and displacement is a vector quantity. Now, in our next video, we shall explain differences between distance and displacement, and we shall try really to understand what is the meaning of distance and displacement. We shall also try to solve different numerical problems related to distance and displacement. Now, write some questions for your homework. First, divide rest and motion with examples. Second, define distance and displacement with examples. Thank you. Thanks. Try to understand these things, revise it again and again, and after revision, try to write these things with your own ability. Thank you. Thank you very much.